Hello, and welcome to the world according to the great one. I am your host, and at times also the moderator. I'm Clifford Adams Jr. Now, we're not going to go ahead and beat around the bush. Here's what's going to be my first topic today. We're going to be talking about domestic violence, and we are not going to talk about just violence against women. We are going to talk about violence against men as well. But also, at first, we will also talk about why this is one of the hot button issues in the country right now. And from what I gather, in my own honest opinion, and also what has been placed in front of us, also by the media, is that we only, for the most part, only care about violence against women. And what statistics may lead you to believe that there's more violence against women than there is against men. Actually, the numbers are almost dead even. And believe it or not, women's violence with men against women, the numbers have gone down in the last 10 years. So why is it that it's been played that men are still overly aggressive? Well, it's because we're basing our evidence on what the media covers. We're also basing that on the alarming rate in which men get arrested for domestic charges as well. And even though states differentiate with how long someone may serve time, but let's also face facts that men do a lot more time in our correctional facilities and our prisons than women do that commit the same crimes. Now, even though I just said that these numbers are about split, it is men who actually suffer the brunt of more severe violence in a relationship. Now, that might surprise some of you. It surprised me when I looked it up. Now, these numbers are actual factual evidence based on the CDC. You can also look them up yourself, and it also is on their website. Now, 1 in every 4 women will be abused in their lifetime. 1 in 5 men and theirs. A man who is raised is twice likely to abuse not only their spouse but also their children. The number is actually double for women, believe it or not. Now, here's where the numbers get skewed up. 85% of all reports of domestic violence are indeed women. We have trained our minds and systematically based on also feministic view, which that is a topic for another day. We have based our views on, a lot of it has to do with feminism, that women are indeed the weaker sex. We should take into account, gentlemen and ladies, if you're watching and listening, and I really hope you are no longer the weaker sex. I'm going to say that again so all of you let that sink in. You are not the weaker sex. When you want to have the same abilities and responsibilities as a man, you should not also not to want to have the same repercussions. I was raised when I was younger that if somebody hits you, you hit them back, regardless of who it is. Now, I'll use an example from my own life. When this so happened, when I was in the 8th grade, a girl hit me. She called me all sorts of names. She talked about what I was wearing. She did this and that and the other, and she hit me. So I hit her back. I was suspended for 3 days for that. Now, when I get home, my mom, being as angry as she is, and she's a very God-fearing woman, and she is now a minister. So if she is watching, Ms. Johnson, hello. Get to the statement of which I'm saying. She says, why did you hit her? Because I was raised that when somebody hits you, you hit them back. In which my dad responds, and it's kind of funny that he responds this way. Well, she probably changed that way of thinking. And he interjects, no matter what happens to you, you should never lay your hands on a woman. If you feel like you're in that situation, you should get out. Okay? So let's fast forward about another 7 years later, and even to the here and now. I've been arrested for domestic violence myself. I'm not gonna hide it. I'm not gonna be ashamed to even say that. I've been arrested for it. I have. Those charges were also dropped as well. But I had to sit in jail also for 4 months in order for those charges to be dropped because there was no physical evidence. Now, let me also bring this back to the forefront. When you are in a situation, male or female, and you are in a violent situation, male or female, you should never put your hands on each other. There is no reason, I believe, that something that you are able to talk about should ever come to fisticuffs. Should ever happen. However, both men and women alike, I'm going to also give you this advice. Whatever you do should be done to you. That should be one of the many things that we should abide by in life. Whatever you do to people comes back onto you. Treat people as if you wanted to be treated. So now I'm going to go back to the ladies first, and I'll address the men in a minute. Ladies, I understand that this is a different time, this is a different era, and the social structure is completely recreated to fit your feelings, feministic ways, and almost every which way possible for you to succeed, not only early on in life, but throughout your entire life, to make sure that everything you do is in merit to you, although demonizing and emasculating a man. But I should say this, I'm going to say this very bluntly, and I'm going to say this harshly. Do not lay your hands on a man and expect not for it to happen back to you. Because you have the wherewithal and the knowledge that if I hit somebody stronger than me, then I should deserve to get hit back. Because I should also hold my own restraint as a grown adult to do so. Because here's what's bothering, and here's what bothers me in this country as well, in our country known as America. It is okay to beat our child half to death. It is okay to whoop our child with switches, high heel shoes, cable cords, and extension cords. But if a woman steps out of line by putting her hand on a man and a man simply does what is done to him, he loses his livelihood. We're wrong for that. Because now what we're saying is that it is more okay to hit a defenseless child than a grown woman who can defend themselves. We should not have that. We should not tolerate that, and we should not stand for that. Women have fought for equal rights since the late 19th century. You wanted equal rights, and now you are close to having them. And actually, quite honestly, you don't have equal rights. You are now superior to us when it comes to rights of freedom in America. So now that you wanted equal rights, as Mr. Tommy Sotomayor would say, guys, you should start handing out equal lefts. By the way, watch his show whenever you guys, there's a plug-in for that. But as we get back to the topic here, let's give you some more. Let's give you some more numbers. Even though it is almost 50-50, like I said, and it's also been reported that 85% is reported by women, let's also take the reason why men do not report it as much because of A, they will look silly and being ridiculed by law enforcement. Law enforcement will, the majority of the time, also not take those accounts seriously because they figure, you're a big guy, why are you calling us? You should handle your own household until it is time for him to actually handle his household. And furthermore, there's more women's programs to help women against violence than there is for men. I'm not saying they're not out there. But as I just have stated earlier, there's so much more money and donations given towards those groups for women to where we overlook men because they are the silent minority now. Now let's go ahead and let me talk to the guys. Guys, I understand that sometimes there are situations where you will have left no choice but to pound cake that woman. A la look at the video of Ray Rice and his wife. Sometimes, only violence can cure violence. As wrong as that sounds, it is very true. But if you also feel that you have to go to that length in order to prove your point across to your woman, get your ass up, grab your testicles and your shit, if it's there with her, and leave. Because there are no women on the face of this earth that's worth going to jail for. Guys, I'm going to tell you this one more time because a person of experience can tell you this. There is no woman on the face of the earth that is worth going to jail for. None. Think about it. No woman's going to jail over you, no matter how much she says she loves you. Now, let's go ahead and go a little bit further. Now, I said that violence against women has actually decreased. So why is there so much public outcry about men hitting women? Well, let's make it, again, because it's the moral aspect. Men should never have put their hands on a woman. Men should do this and that and here and the other. But what are women supposed to do? As women, this is what's blatant fact. Let's just say, I'm going to play devil's advocate here, and let's just say you are indeed smarter than us, which I, for one, don't think so. But let's just say that you are. Then you should apply that same smarts and knowing that if I hit this man, I don't know what's going to happen to me. Because not all men are going to do what Jesus does and turns the other cheek. Ladies, you have to use better judgment. Ladies, you should know. Not all men were raised not to pop you in the mouth. Some will drag you by your shirt out the front door. And I know some of this terminology is going to piss some of you off, both male and female. But I'm going to be very blunt. I'm going to be very honest. Violence, period, either side, is wrong. So how do we fix these situations, both men and women alike? Simple. Keep your hands off each other. Because there is no reason that a woman should ever hit a man. There is no reason why a man should ever hit a woman. There isn't. You also have to realize that if you are in a situation where you feel like you are on the verge of knocking them the fuck out, you need to get out. And if you want to save your relationship of any sort, get help. You are not weak for asking for help. You are weak by knowing that there is help and not seeking it. That goes for men and women alike. So as you guys take into what I'm saying, and I know some of it didn't come in the exact order that I wanted it to come out, know this, that violence in this country is at an all-time high in any way, shape, and form. But there is one thing I do really believe, that if you do love and care for your fellow man and woman, you wouldn't lay your hands on them like that. You should not ever have to think about doing harm to them in the physical or emotional, psychological level. Because let us face facts, and I've heard this from both men and women alike, some of people would rather have it physical than emotional. But it's all equally wrong. I have a daughter. She's 3 years old. And me and her mother, even though we're not together, we have done a great job in trying to tell her from an early age she shouldn't go around hitting people. When my daughter gets older, she will also know that she should never let anybody put their hands on her. But she will also never be the aggressor in any situation either. Because quite honestly, let us be honest, I will gladly go to jail for somebody hurting my daughter in that fashion. And in turn, I wouldn't ever attempt to try to put myself in those predicaments either. Men, let's raise our daughters to try to make them not only strong mentally, but also strong physically and emotionally. Teach them that it is not okay to hit a man, no matter what he's done. Doesn't matter if he cheated, he lied, he stayed gone for 3 days. Doesn't matter. Because your other actions and your words are just enough. Ladies, we need to raise our daughters better. Ladies, you need to teach your daughters that anything you can't talk out, you need to take 2 steps and walk it out. It is never okay to hit a man, no matter what he's done. And ladies, if we spend as much time talking about that as we do about child support, again, another topic for another show. But if we spend equal amount of time on the things that do indeed really matter, then our daughters will be fine. And as a collective, we also need to raise our sons to take back their manhood. Allow our boys to be just that, boys. Train them to be men. Train them that violence against the person you're supposed to love more than anything in the world is never okay. Train them to know that it is okay to go get help if you need it and see fit. But also know, do not take shit from her because she has a pussy. And that she's one call away from 911 and you're sitting behind bars. As I close out this show, this is my first episode, like I said. I want you guys to take into your own experiences how you felt, or how you feel if you're going through it right now. The physical, emotional abuse from your man, woman, whether you be gay, straight, transgender, transsexual, whether you be old or young, whether you be teenager or elderly, whether you be black, white, or any other race under the sun. I want you to think about your own experiences. I want you to think about how you felt when it happened to you. And would you ever do it to somebody else? Furthermore, would you tolerate it? And if you don't tolerate it, then you should say something. To my ladies, you should back me up on this. Violence against a man is equally as wrong as violence against you. and you should not stand for it. You should not tolerate it. It is not okay. And in the end, if you want true equality, then you will find out that sometimes standing on our side is indeed standing on yours. To make a safer world, it's quite simple. We should use our words. Our words are all we need. At least some of the time. Most of the time. Last word of advice. If you have to include police in your relationship, chances are probably don't